Hey guys, this is Corey again. We are today checking out Vapi and seeing exactly what these guys offer. I would consider this, this is I've talked to a few people recently that will really want to roll their own version of Air.Ai. Seen some, they're saying, okay, well, we can do inbound calls, outbound calls, all with Vapi. And these are the use cases that they've identified. Some of them: dentist office, schedule appointments, patient FAQs, SaaS website, product information, troubleshooting support, barbershop, bookings, availability, inquiries, those kinds of things you wouldn't want to employ a human to do. And I would say, yeah, these are definitely use cases that we use Air.Ai for. These guys are set up for developers. So this is, we'll do a little demo of the voice here, take a look at that. But then I also want to talk about the other moving parts that are necessary to do all of these things that are down here. Especially, qualifying leads, for instance, or booking appointments. I don't see that here. Inbound calls. So schedule appointments here for an inbound call. We'll talk about that for an outbound call. So let's check this thing out. Let's see what it does. By the way, one of the things that I did notice was I went to use this one time, and over a period of time. Actually, it wasn't just like that one instance, and it said, "Oh, we've got too much traffic right now. Try again later. Server's not available." So that's another thing is, what's going to be your experience here with your back end capability for volume? Are you going to be able to, let me see what we've got here. Yeah, it wasn't very, I thought it might be easy to identify. Maybe their enterprise here could be, their enterprise solution here could be one of the solutions to that, to the fact that you're doing a high call volume or something like that. But just to note that, yeah, it matters how much server you've got available and standing by. And that's one of the reasons that, the agencies are out there. The air agencies are getting dedicated servers for the agency clients and agency license holders. So, as a license holder, we get those, enterprise level capabilities, which is super important because getting GPUs is difficult, and it's expensive, and it's worth quite a little bit to have that already secured. So anyhow, yeah, they've got some enterprise pricing there. Let's check this thing out. And I have to allow it.
Welcome to Vapi. I'm an assistant that you can talk to like a person. So, how's your day going?
And hopefully we can hear that.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yes, you can definitely hear me. I'm here to help and have a conversation with you.
Yeah. So what kind of things can you integrate with?
Oh, I can integrate with a whole bunch of things. For starters, I can hook up with providers like OpenAI, Play HT11 Labs, and Decram. This means I can do all sorts of cool stuff like natural language processing, speech transcription, and even language translation. And if you have your own API keys for these providers, you can bring them along and customize your Vapi experience even more. How cool is that?
Well, that sounds cool.
I'm glad you think so.
Some of the things are this has a pretty good latency, so I like that. Of course, the voice sounds good. There could be some things added, and that's one of the things to talk about with what Air does versus, to actually turn this into a product like these things here. What's really required and what Air does do is monitors for, latency gaps and inserts little utterances in there which make it sound more like a person, some ums and some breathing kind of things. I've heard some breaths in there. Plus, just throwing in an okay or a sure, sort of idea in there. So that requires yet another agent running, not just the one that's doing this initial conversation here. And then this is not directed. So you're going to have to develop prompting to actually direct it to do something very, very specific, like schedule an appointment or follow up with a lead, to screen a potential clients, negotiate repayments with debt collection. These are all great applications, but there are a lot more moving parts here than just this one instance of this conversation like we've got here. Furthermore, Air implements a database, a knowledge base, via knowledge base cards, and those are used for a variety of things. One might be to say, to end a call so that you could identify, help. It already has it built in to identify answering machines, but there could be a specific type of answering machine response because it's super dynamic what is said on it when an answering machine answers to, kind of drop that call when you know that it's an answering machine. So you can add cards in there for that. You can also add cards in there for don't talk about this. You can't, oh, well, what interest rate can I get? What kind of, that's what somebody might ask in the case of a mortgage company. And you just can't speak to that unless you're licensed. So it would say, specifically, well, I can't speak to that. I can do a transfer to someone who could. Let me transfer you to Bill who can speak to that, who's licensed. That's another one is just how do you deal with the call, the end of the call? What do you do? Do you book an appointment? What's the goal of the call? You book an appointment, you do a live transfer, what, or do you just need to end it? So those things get built into some of the knowledge bases. There's also actions. So you've got actions to take under certain circumstances, certain location in the call, certain type of phrase being said, those kinds of things. So there are other agents active, multiple agents active on, when I say that, AI agents active on a call. Then afterward, you've got to post-process the information that comes out of it, go book the calls based on the data that's brought into the call and then selected by the user. So it's not just, oh, well, look at this. I've got something that does a voice and it can also make a phone call. I've got a lot of things that need to happen. Plus, to make that call, to collect the information that you need to in the call, to provide the information in the call, appointment times, and then actually do other things like transfer the call, end the call, those sorts of pieces. But there are a lot of different agents that are in place and active during these calls. So there's something. They do have quite a few. They've got more languages right here. So these are kind of the big ones. That's pretty cool. And one of the big things that you're really doing on these things is not just having the agent speak in the language, but also being able to receive, for it to listen in the language. So that's something that this has got. I would say there's an advantage here because there's only, I think, Air at the time of videoing this does English and Spanish, but not some of these other languages. You would have, there may or may not be some special applications to use some of these other ones. There are reasons to use these other languages in the U.S. You would have to know exactly who you're calling, but the majority of the U.S. is going to be covered by these two languages right here that you would just call someone or just generally have available to you. There might be, like I said, special cases where you're going to have these other languages being spoken inside the U.S. or for calls coming from the U.S. anyhow, I think that was just the main point. Because I've talked to a few different developer types, and they go, "Oh well, we'll just use Vapi to go do this." Well, there are quite a few more things that go into actually making that phone call and doing some of these things that are down here. You can't just like, oh, I've got this AI thing and turn it loose. It's got to follow a script. It's got to have things monitoring it, figuring out when to end the call, injecting utterances so that the latency is not bad. It makes a better phone call for the end user, even if they do know it's an AI. It's just a better experience. It's a more natural flowing experience by adding all these other little pieces in there. And then of course just very strictly following a script is super important to do the work that we're doing with Air. Anyhow, that's a brief Vapi review, I guess, or just comparison with Air.